It is time to once again look at every Street Fighter game. Welcome back to all of the Street Fighters. Today we're talking about Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, the third and final iteration of Street Fighter 3. And for me, probably in my top 3 Street Fighter games, I reckon. It's widely loved. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is a hugely important game for the Street Fighter franchise. It's the best Street Fighter 3 game. It's one of the best Street Fighter games, just definitely. But weirdly, similar to the Street Fighter Alpha 3 video, we've got this hugely important game, this game that everybody loves, the best version of this version of Street Fighter, and I've maybe not got loads to talk about in terms of the evolution of Street Fighter, and even the evolution of Street Fighter 3. There's not a huge amount of changes with Third Strike. It's got some extra characters, it's got a couple of new gameplay features which aren't significant, in my opinion, as a non-competitive player. They're not hugely significant. It's like the greatest hits of Street Fighter 3. It's got the biggest Street Fighter 3 character roster. It introduces a couple of real Street Fighter 3 favourites. And yeah, it's just the biggest game of them. I don't know, it's just by being the last one and having the most stuff in it, it's just become the favourite. But anyway, we'll talk about what's new in it and what has changed. But if you're wanting to learn more about Street Fighter 3 and why it's significant and why it's different to Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5, I would urge you to go back and look at some of the other Street Fighter 3 videos. So the first one, New Generation, and even the second game, Second Impact. There's probably more to talk about, and particularly in the first video, Street Fighter 3 New Generation, that's where we talk about the parry system and the visuals and why Street Fighter 3 is so good. So go back and watch that. If you've watched that already, welcome to Third Strike. So characters, we always start with characters, and they're probably the biggest change in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So there's 5 new characters, and if you've watched the previous Street Fighter 3 videos, you'll remember that Street Fighter 3 was very bold in that it launched with almost a completely new roster of characters. So it had Ryu and Ken, but apart from Ryu and Ken, it was completely new characters. And this was bizarre at the time because Street Fighter has always been full of these recognisable characters, you know, Chun-Li and Dalsim and Sagat and Vega and blah 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 blah. Talking of Chun-Li, Third Strike brings her back. So we got Akuma in, so previously to this game we had Ryu and Ken and Akuma. Now we've got Chun-Li returning to the franchise. So that's amazing because Chun-Li is one of the most iconic Street Fighter characters. In that famous Daigo versus Justin Wong clip that I talked about in the first Street Fighter 3 video, that includes Chun-Li. So Chun-Li's weirdly become one of the most iconic Street Fighter 3 characters as well, even though she's one of the originals. But yeah, Chun-Li is back, super cool, they're good. So then we've also got 4 brand new characters. So adding to the roster, these four characters, and one of them in particular is very very cool and a big fan favourite. So let's start with that one, Makoto. Makoto is a Japanese teenager who fights in the karate style. So she's got a similar look to somebody like Ryu, but I guess she kind of fights more like Fei Long in the fact that it's lots of quick dashing punches and kicks, very ground based. And Makoto's just super super awesome. I love her look. She looks like a classic Street Fighter character, which a lot of the Street Fighter 3 characters don't. They kind of start to bring in more weird stuff. Makoto looks like classic Street Fighter. And Capcom recently did what did they call it? Like a fan vote of fan favourite characters from the whole franchise. And I think the Street Fighter community really used this as a tool to tell Capcom who they wanted as DLC characters in Street Fighter 5. That's how I took it anyway. I mean, the winner was Sakura, obviously, because Sakura's amazing. And she's actually the first character of Season 3 of Street Fighter 5, which we'll get to when we talk about Street Fighter 5. It gets weird. But number 2 was Makoto, and it's generally been taken as a battle cry from the Street Fighter community to say we want Makoto in more games. So I would not be surprised to see Makoto making a return. We've also got Remy, who is a Parisian, the French character, who is kind of like very King of Fighters in style, in look, but he actually fights quite similar to Guile and Charlie, so a lot of similar kind of moves. We've also got 12, who has got a kind of similar visual style to Necro, if you remember Necro from our other Street Fighter 3 videos. 12's like a what would you call it? Like a body shifter. He can change his limbs into, I say he's like a humanoid experiment thing. Changes limbs into axes and things like that. Very weird. When I talked about Makoto looking like classic Street Fighter, 12's kind of the opposite. There's no, I don't know, there's kind of no style there or anything. It's just like a flat, white, body shaping, body shifting, humanoid, massive jelly. I don't know what 12 is. Kind of interesting. And then finally we've got Q, and Q kind of looks like the Invisible Man. He wears this long trench coat and gloves and a hat, and then he's got this like metal mask that he wears. A really cool design. I really like the design of Q. He's like a, I don't know, like a detective, but kind of looks like a robot as well. I don't know, is he actually a robot? But Q was also rated very highly in that fan vote. I think it was number 9 out of, I don't know how many they included in the end, but it was a lot, maybe 50. Q was number 9. So and the developer of Street Fighter, Ono, has hinted that we might see Q. When a fan asked him on Twitter, you know, will we see Q? You know, there's these hints in the Street Fighter 5 series, story. Ono kind of replied with, you know, would you like that? Well, maybe he's coming soon. I can't remember what he actually said. He didn't say that. He's Japanese. But yeah. I think we're all hoping to see Q quite soon as well. So they're the characters. I think for me, the inclusion of Chun-Li and Makoto is what elevates Street Fighter 3. They're two great additions that just fit right in. The other characters are great as well, but I think Chun-Li and Makoto certainly, for me, they make Street Fighter 3 feel more like a classic Street Fighter game. As I say, the character roster has always had these kind of weird new things, and they've definitely tried new things with Street Fighter 3. But just a couple of additions that feel classic and they feel like Street Fighter how we remember it when we were kids really makes Third Strike a better game for me. I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but it is for me. So in terms of other changes to the game, they're fairly slim, or certainly slim to how me and you would probably notice them. So one of the obvious things is the bonus stage where you smash up the car. That makes a return in Third Strike. It's just a little thing, but that wasn't in Second Impact or New Generation. So we like to smash up cars. That's cool. That makes a return. The game also ranks you after every battle, and this is new in Third Strike. You get ranked with a letter grade. So it rates your offense, your defense, your tech, and your extra. So I couldn't sit and tell you what tech and extra are, but I think offense and defense are fairly self-explanatory. So you get rated. I think it's A to E or A to F. And yeah, it's just a general score for how you did, which I think when you're playing in the arcades, that's always quite cool because you know you're playing in versus matches against people you've never met, and it's nice to see a little rating at the end to show you how well you did. I think it's a nice little feature. And then in terms of solid gameplay mechanics that are new, they introduced this thing called the guard parry. Now, I always try my hardest to describe what these new gameplay mechanics are, but guard parry is something that in my day-to-day play in Street Fighter 3, I never ever come across. So I'm going to read you a description of what guard parry is from the official Street Fighter Wikipedia. So the guard parry is performed when, by inputting a parry after blocking at least the first hit of a multi-hitting combo, and is indicated with the user turning red. If the player successfully times a parry attempt right as the combo ends, the guard parry will grant them a major frame advantage and allows them more time to punish the attacker with a reversal attack or a combo of their own. So it's basically it's adding in parries when you're blocking against combos that are incoming. It's added in extra times when you can parry the combo. so that you can, if you successfully manage to pull this off, you can punish them. So as I said, this is an addition for pro Street Fighter players, for people in the competitive scene. It's something that I've never ever done. I'm never ever likely to do, and I wouldn't know I was doing it if I did do it. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but not something for the everyday Street Fighter player. So Third Strike, I'm trying my hardest not to make it seem like a tiny little iterative. Just small entry in the series, because it's a massively important game. Third Strike is the Street Fighter 3 game, but I've already run out of changes to talk to you about. We've had a few home versions of Third Strike. It released on the Dreamcast and on the PlayStation 2, and then it was later released, the first time I ever played Street Fighter 3, it was released in the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, which released on the PS2 and the Xbox. I picked this up on the Xbox when it released. So Street Fighter Anniversary Collection was 2 games on one disc. It was Hyper Street Fighter 2, and then also Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. And I think pretty much everybody, me definitely, bought it for Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. It also included a bonus DVD on the Xbox that had the Street Fighter 2 animated movie, the manga. So that was another part of it. But mainly it was to play Street Fighter 3, because I'd never played Street Fighter 3 at this time. So Third Strike was actually my first Street Fighter 3. And then much later, in kind of recent history, although this feels closer in time than it actually was, in 2011, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition was released on the Xbox 360 and on the PSN store. So this was ported by Iron Galaxy, who are now known as the people who make Killer Instinct on the Xbox and the PC. They're an amazingly talented studio. They were doing a lot of ports at the time, and they were huge fighting game fans. And I think they really proved themselves with Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition that they could do this. That they were a team made up of fans who understood what the community wanted. They kept in bugs and things like that, because they wanted it to be the pure Street Fighter 3 experience. They didn't fix things. Often when people go back to these older games and re-release them in like HD versions, they fix all the bugs and they bring it out as this, we've polished it up. But I don't think Street Fighter fans want that. They want everything to be the same. They added in this awesome thing where they had challenges on the left and right of the screen. So obviously Street Fighter 3 isn't a widescreen game because of the time it released. It's a 4x3 game. So on the left and right of the screen, where you'd normally just have black bars or some like art, they added in these challenges. So it'd be like, hit 4 parries, and every time you do a parry, it'll just tick one off. And these were just constant as you played over the years. So these challenges are always updating. So you've just always got these tiny little objectives. Even if you just mess around on your own playing on the arcade mode at home, you've always got these little challenges to be working towards and to beat. And I really like that. I thought it was a great little addition to what's essentially an arcade game where you've got unlimited continues. So that's our look at Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. That's the last Street Fighter 3 game. We're saying goodbye to it. You'll be able to play it in May, I think it is, when the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection launches. Third Strike is going to be one of the few games in the collection that's online enabled. So you'll be able to play Street Fighter 3 Third Strike online with players around the world and probably get your butt kicked, because Street Fighter 3 players are generally very hardcore and very brilliant. But it's awesome. I highly recommend you playing it. It's going to be the first thing I play when I get the Anniversary Collection, because it's one of the best Street Fighters. Thank you for joining me for all the Street Fighters. We're going to be moving away from Street Fighter 3 next time. I think the next game on our list is Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is also definitely in my top 3. It's an incredible game. So I need to find my Dreamcast and plug it in and work out how I'm capturing from the Dreamcast. So, anyway, I'll see you then. Next Thursday. See you later. Bye bye bye.
Go!